Welcome to part 2 of freelancing tips, covering a couple things under the umbrella of how do I even find work? In the video description, I will post timestamps for when we cover specific questions and topics if you want to jump around that way. So to start, how do I find work?
There are a number of online tools that you can use to do job searching that are specific to our field, such as Offstage Jobs or on Playbill.com. But I would say that the biggest way that you're going to be able to find jobs is through networking.
It's all about who you know
and how eager they are to recommend you for a position or for a role.
I have built a network over the years of a lot of fabricators and other painters, people who own the venues where things like this are happening, so that if a project were to come up and they need some sort of painter for it, that I would be hopefully a person they would call for that work.
Production managers like to reach out to people and be like, hey, do you know a Scenic, or do you have somebody who can do XYZ? Through fostering really good relationships with them, I become the first name on their list.
I know a lot of theaters don't put out ads for a short-term position. They don't have the time to look through resumes and whatnot. They just want somebody's recommendation. And if you're the first person that comes to mind, then that's great. That's how you're going to get work.
And to this you might say, but I'm just starting out. I don't have a network. So what do I do?
If you're starting out and you don't have a network yet, just reach out to people. There's nothing stopping you ever from looking into theaters in your area and sending out an email with an attachment to your resume or portfolio and just mentioning that you're available.
Definitely shoot your resume to production managers around the city, and they will forward them onto their charges, and then they'll have your information, and that can never hurt.
So even if you're not hearing back immediately, you could be being filed away. All of us have contact lists, and we reach out to each other about who might be looking for work, who is good, who's new, put feelers out.
So you'll go and do a job, meet those people. Through those people, they'll either recommend you or bring you on to the next job that they're doing.
And if they see that you are a hardworking person, if you're good at what you do, or if you just have a good attitude, they're more likely to recommend you to work with them more or to other projects, to other theaters.
They start calling you when they hear of a job that you might be right for, or they will recommend you when they've worked with you in the past.
Getting into the shops are your basic, like, here's my resume, interview me. Wonderful. Whereas working for theaters, it's really word of mouth and getting in with production managers and getting in with technical directors and kind of networking your way into those spots.
You need to be able to reach out yourself, because as a freelancer, at the end of the day, you're your own boss and you run your own business.
How do you build a network?
I think a good tip, not just for your first few gigs, but also just in life in general, you should be the person to introduce themselves first. I may not always take this advice, but if you're sitting around and waiting for people to say hello and introduce themselves, they may not ever. And if you're working at a gig for one day, you may not ever introduce yourself to the artistic director, and then you've lost out on that connection. Just introduce yourself to them, and if it doesn't amount to anything, then whatever, but also you've made a connection.
You never know where that right connection is going to be, so you want to try to stay open about that.
Move to a city where you know someone who is established so they can help you make some contacts, or they can hire you to overhire for your first couple of gigs so you can meet people.
Look into different film communities and see if there's any small films going on that may need an extra hand or something as a way to get your foot in the door.
It's a little hard to break into, but once you're in, you don't really have to do a ton of looking for work. The work tends to find you. You get calls from designers or shops or theaters that have heard about you from another Scenic or one of the designers they're working with. It's possible in a smaller community like that to make a lot of broad connections, and then they sort of snowball into a fairly steady stream of work, which was really great.
Everyone knows everyone in the art community, and if you get your name out there enough, it will get out to everyone. So you just have to keep trying.
The connections are the most important thing you're going to be building. So even if you end up taking a hiatus or a different kind of job for a little while, those are the most important things to preserve.
What are some ways besides networking that you can find work?
Print out business cards. You can leave them with people because you never know when you might find a fun side gig, like a store that you're in. You just start randomly talking to somebody and they want something painted.
If you see a design that you're really enthused about, there's usually a way to reach out to the set designer and just I really enjoyed your work. I'm in the industry too. I would love to be part of a project or an internship, or there's just that level of being willing to work and yes, initially doing some dues paying and making it work.
I just do a lot of digging on social media, make sure I've liked, I hope I have, all of the Scenic workshops in the UK, follow them, see what they're up to, same on Facebook and Instagram, check their websites for job opportunities. By following them on social media and by actively interacting with all their stuff, Scenic workshops always come up first for me, so if anyone's posting any job opportunities, I shouldn't miss it. I just like to try and keep on top of that.
Use all of the resources at your fingertips. If you go online, chances are there's some kind of group out there that has job postings all the time. Chances are there's some sort of email list or just some kind of Facebook group or something that has available job opportunities coming up that they'll post on there.
Do look for where your possibilities are.
Okay, so I know I need a network, and I found places that I want to work. So how do I become more hireable?
I think you get someone to hire you by making them confident that their financial investment in you is gonna pay off. You have to sort of sell yourself to people who are interested in your services. So you need to be able to speak about yourself confidently. You need to carry yourself confidently. So you need to be able to present yourself and speak about yourself in a way that is professional as well. That's, a responsibility of a freelancer to present themselves in a way that commands the money that they want to charge.
To get work, you're going to have a good attitude and a good work ethic. Just being able to prove to people not just that you're good at what you do and that you're talented, but that you are enjoyable to be around and that you are an asset to the shop, or that you're an asset to the process of making sets. That's what's going to set you apart from other candidates for those positions.
The way that you get jobs is by being personable, it's by being teachable, and it's by being proactive. It's all about representing yourself as somebody that another person wants to work with. You are just a small piece to a bigger picture. And so if people don't want to work with you, then it's going to be really hard for you to find a place in someone's team.
I think the best way I could put it is that you are your own CV, I guess. You are giving the best representation of yourself on a job. You're working hard, you're showing up on time, you're lovely and polite to everyone, and you clean your brushes and you just do the absolute best that you can.
How often should I reach out to shops?
I think it's not necessarily how often you reach out, but how you reach out, and trying to be as professional and well-spoken and well-said as possible is key to being heard and taken seriously as a colleague and as a peer.
I don't actually reach out to shops all that often because I can secure my work through a lot of smaller gigs stitched together versus working full-time at a shop.
I have seen on either end of the spectrum shops that I've applied to that have sort of forgotten about the email I sent them with my resume attached, but I've also heard of people not wanting to be contacted many times because that can bother them.
I think most of the times your name is on a list, and so when they need help, they just go down a list, and it's not necessarily the amount of times that you reached out to them that bumps you up on that list.
So if you're reaching directly out to shops, which you should do, try to get a response back. Don't be afraid to call too sometimes and just give that a shot.
When I do notice in my schedule I have a big space coming up of no work or light work, I'm like, hey, let's give those shops a call, see if they have a need for me, because I have a need for them. It's a relationship.
At this point in my work, I don't have to go out and find it. People come to me because they've heard of me or have Googled it, and that's a really nice place to be, because I'm at a point where I can turn down a job if I don't think it's going to be financially lucrative in the way that I want my work to be. That was not always the case, but now I'm in a position where I can do that.
So to summarize, there is plenty of work out there, at least when we're not in the middle of a pandemic. It might take time for you to get your name out there and to get established, but it will just keep building over time as you get to know people and keep working in different shops. It might be frustratingly slow at times, but you will get there. If you have any thoughts or questions of your own, let me know.